One of the most trusted names in sneakers has been quietly funneling stolen Nikes into its own stores, and this isn't a rumor.
The CoolKicks LA team is speaking out tonight after the owner of the popular sneaker store was arrested.
There's a police raid, a 12-person federal indictment, and $2 million behind it. Now, to be clear about who we're talking about, CoolKicks isn't some back alley reseller, it's the store. Melrose Avenue, nearly 2 million YouTube subscribers, the place Kai Cenat and Lil Uzi and half the league filmed themselves dropping thousands on a single pair of shoes. A guy named Adeel Shams built it out of a $20 box of used Jordans he found at a yard sale and turned it into 3 stores, each pulling somewhere between $7 and $10 million a year. The kind of place you go to because you trust it's real. And that's exactly what makes what prosecutors say was happening behind it so ugly. So let's start with the day it stopped being a rumor. Adeel Shams is doing what he does, live on camera, running an auction on Whatnot, selling shoes to thousands of people watching in real time. And then there's a noise off screen. You can watch him stop, you can watch him ask out loud whether he's being swatted, whether this is some prank or somebody calls the police on a live streamer for fun. And then the stream just ends. What was actually happening was the Los Angeles Police Department's cargo theft unit serving a search warrant on a CoolKicks warehouse in Santa Monica. They weren't alone. They came in alongside the Union Pacific Railroad Police, and that detail matters, so hold on to it. Because what they walked out with wasn't a couple of questionable pairs. Police say they recovered around $500,000 in stolen goods, more than 2,100 pairs of Nikes, roughly 140 cartons of Nike clothing. Some of it not even released to the public yet. The LAPD didn't call it stolen retail, they called it stolen train cargo. Shams was arrested on the spot, along with 3 other people, and booked on a felony, receiving property he allegedly knew was stolen. He was out again pretty quickly, released on his own recognizance, with a court date later that month. And CoolKicks? CoolKicks did what you'd expect. They put out a statement. They said the news came as a complete shock. They said they'd bought the product in good faith, that it was only a small allotment picked up in the previous 48 hours, and that nobody on the team had any reason to believe those shoes were stolen. 9 months later, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Tennessee unsealed an indictment, 12 people, and the charge was a conspiracy to transport stolen property across state lines. Prosecutors say that between the summer of 2021 and the summer of 2024, this group stole at least $2 million worth of Nike product out of a single building, Nike's North American Logistics Center in Memphis, the place where the shoes live before they ever reach a store. And the way they allegedly did it is almost boring in how clean it was. According to the indictment, people on the inside would pick out the exact product they wanted, the good stuff, the stuff that resells, find it in the warehouse, and then slap a shipping label on it. A label that sent that box not to a Foot Locker or a Nike outlet, but to an address the crew controlled. The shoes just walked out the front door as a legitimate shipment, and on the other end, someone was waiting to grab them and sell them. Now, who's on the inside? Prosecutors say 6 of the 12 people charged were Nike employees. One of them, a floor manager named Michael Perkins, allegedly brought the labels into the building. Others allegedly stuck them on the cartons. These weren't outsiders who broke in. According to the government, they were the people Nike paid to guard the shoes. And then there's the Los Angeles end of this, because among those 12 names is Bereket Abraham, 39 years old, co-founder of CoolKicks, the same store, alongside a reseller named Jorge Cuellar. You might know him online as Jorge Sales, and a third man, Roy Harvey Junior. Here's what police and prosecutors allege those 3 were doing. They say Abraham and Harvey used CoolKicks' own UPS account and equipment to print the fake labels that made the whole thing work. They say Abraham and Cuellar then paid Harvey and the people inside the warehouse more than $900,000 for the stolen shoes, and turned around and sold them, through resale channels and through CoolKicks. You pay $900,000 for product that should have cost you nothing but the bribe. You move at least $2 million of it, and you sell it out of a store people drive across the country to shop at, because they trust it. CoolKicks, for its part, moved fast when the indictment dropped. Within days, they announced they had terminated their relationship with Abraham, and they were careful to point out that the indictment named him, not the company. Abraham's lawyer declined to comment. And for the record, because it matters, nobody in either of these cases has been convicted. These are charges, allegations. A raid and an indictment are the start of a story, not the end of one. But you don't get to a 12-person federal indictment by accident. So how did any of this come apart? The answer is that it almost didn't, and when it did, it started small. Go back to January of 2024, before the raid, before the indictment, before any of it was public. That's when the LAPD arrested Roy Harvey Junior, not federally, just a state charge, receiving stolen property, the kind of arrest that could have easily gone nowhere. One reseller, one pile of shoes, one case number, except somebody pulled the thread. Harvey's arrest is what put the LAPD's Cargo Theft Task Force and the FBI in the same room, comparing notes, a pile of stolen Nikes in Los Angeles and a warehouse 2,000 miles away in Memphis that kept coming up short. And once those two ends got connected, the shape of the whole thing started to show. There's also a smaller detail in the reporting that's almost too neat, and I want to flag it as exactly that. Reported, not confirmed by the government. But according to local coverage, part of what tripped the scheme up was a snowstorm. In 2024, a storm shut down operations at that Memphis warehouse, froze the deliveries, froze the routine, and when a system built on shipments running like clockwork suddenly stops, the packages that aren't supposed to be there start to stand out. Either way, the machine that had run quietly for 3 years stopped running quietly. A single state arrest in Los Angeles became a multi-year, cross-country federal investigation, the FBI's Cargo Theft Task Force pulling in field offices from Nashville to Chicago to LA. And at the end of it stood a co-founder of one of the most beloved sneaker stores on the internet. But here's the part that should actually bother you. Because if you're thinking this is a story about one dirty store, you're thinking too small. Remember the phrase from the very first raid? Not stolen shoes, stolen train cargo, and the Union Pacific Railroad Police standing next to the LAPD. That wasn't a coincidence, that was a clue about how big this really is. Because while all of this was happening, something else was going on out in the desert. Over roughly a year, the Los Angeles Times reported at least 10 separate heists on freight trains rolling through California and Arizona. And the method is something out of an old Western. Crews would cut the air brake hose on a moving train to force it into an emergency stop, cut open the shipping containers, and throw the boxes off the side, a human conveyor belt handing cargo down to trucks waiting in the dark. In 9 of those 10 robberies, the thing they were after was Nikes. In one single night in January 2025, they made off with almost 2,000 pairs of unreleased Air Jordans, around $440,000 in shoes that weren't even for sale yet. And that's just the trains. The Trade Group for America's Railroads counted roughly 65,000 cargo thefts across its rail network in 2024 alone, up 40% in a single year. 60-plus people have been charged federally in connection with that string of desert heists. So here's the uncomfortable truth underneath the whole thing. A stolen pair of Nikes and a legitimate pair of Nikes look identical. Same box, same shoe, same barcode. The only difference is a paper trail you never see, which means the resale world, the entire multi-billion-dollar business of flipping sneakers you love, is sitting directly downstream of all of it. The trains, the warehouse, the $900,000 in bribes. It all flows to the same place, a shelf with a price tag in a store you trust. And that's what makes CoolKicks the perfect place to end this. Not because it's the worst offender, the courts will decide what it is, but because it was the safe one, the famous one. The one with the celebrities and the yard sale founding story and the 2 million subscribers who watched and believed it was real. If it could happen there, quietly, for years, allegedly right under the logo everybody trusted, then the real question was never, did CoolKicks do it? The real question is how many of the shoes on your shelf came the same way? And you have no way to know.